So you just started Destiny, bought the Taken King, and are ready to save the galaxy. But you have no idea where to start. Or maybe you're a veteran Guardian who's blazed through year 1, but is only just now jumping into the Taken King. Well, no worries, we've got you covered too. Hey, what's up Guardians, TBL here, and today we're going to be bringing you the Christmas Noobs Guide to Destiny and the Taken King. Now, this first part of the guide will deal mainly with new players to the game, but we'll then jump in and show you vets just where to start in the Taken King. But first up, let's start with the new players. Destiny is a big, fun game, and it's got tons of things to do, so when you jump right in, it might seem a little bit overwhelming. But don't worry, with this guide, we'll get you on the fast track to the max level and headlong into the in-game content. First things first, some basic ground rules. You can only have up to 3 characters, and I would definitely recommend making 1 character of each class, the 3 classes of course being Warlock, Hunter, and Titan. Now, if you bought the Taken King, when you start off and finally reach the tower at the end of the prologue, you'll receive an item called the Spark of Light. This item will instantly level one of your characters to 25 so that you can jump right into the Taken King storyline. Now, I know that might seem really alluring, but I would actually advise that you save that Spark of Light instant boost and utilize it on a secondary character since you're only really given 1 per game unless you decide to go the microtransaction route and spend a ton of real-life money on buying another one. Not something I would recommend. Another reason I really wouldn't recommend using it on your first character is mainly because there's plenty of sources of EXP throughout the story mode of Destiny, and it really doesn't take that long to go from level 1 up to the max level. But of course, that choice is up to you. Once you finish the prologue and gain access to the tower, you should actually replay the first few story missions for extra EXP until you hit level 4. Now the reasoning for that is at level 4 you gain access to the tower's bounties, which grant significant amounts of EXP and will help you level super quickly. Seriously, if you're a starting player, bounties are going to be your best friend. They'll also grant you faction and vanguard reputation at a later point, which will start netting you legendary gear later on in the game. There's also PvP bounties, so if you're a multiplayer minded individual you can definitely pick these up, hop into the Crucible and grind out levels in there. It's also fairly quick. I've seen people jump from level 1 up to level 20 in a single day just by playing Crucible. But alright, from here on out, just run patrols and story missions. They'll open up the main playable areas while also teaching you the core mechanics of the game. I would definitely recommend pacing yourself though. Pick up all of the day's basic bounties, then run the story missions until you've completed those bounties and turn them in via the quest screen, and then just take a little bit of a break. That way you'll gain tons of EXP while not really burning yourself out on the grind. Which, believe me, is definitely real in Destiny. Whether you want to believe it or not, this game is kind of an MMO and it's definitely got the MMO grind feel going on. So take it easy. As long as you're running bounties and doing the story missions, you'll be leveling up in no time. Now, patrols are also a great way to build EXP, Glimmer, which is the game's form of basic currency, planetary materials, which you'll definitely want to farm a lot of ASAP, and Vanguard rep. Patrols themselves are basically little mini missions that you'll be able to find and complete while out in the free roam patrol mode of planets. They're essentially invaluable in the early game, and you should definitely run a few when you're not grinding story missions. And with the bonus amounts of Glimmer and EXP that they drop now, they're definitely worth your time. You'll also be running into public events while out on patrol. These are world events that can grant you Motes of Light, which are items that you'll definitely be using a lot of in the late game. As a lower level player, soloing these can definitely be a little bit difficult, so you're going to want to buddy up with any other Guardians you can find in the area. Other than that, keep grinding and completing your story missions and you'll power through those levels in no time. And once you hit level 25, the Taken King storyline will open up to you. That's when things really get fun. Alright, so now that you new players know what to do until about level 20 to 25, and you returning players are diving into the Taken King for the first time, we can cover ways to get started. First things first, complete all of the Taken King story missions. Seriously, they're fantastic and they are well worth your time. Progressing through the expansion will open up all of the new content and activities like the Dreadnought, the Raid, Court of Oryx, and your shiny new subclass. Make sure you're picking up and completing bounties all throughout this as well. If you do, you're almost guaranteed to be level 40 by the end of the story. Don't miss out on that extra EXP. The Taken King also introduces a new line of missions called quests. These will show up alongside of your story missions and can often be completed simultaneously. And for the most part, they grant some pretty darn good rewards. Completing the Taken King story missions will grant you legendary gear from your faction leaders, as well as a new form of currency replacing the old Vanguard and Crucible marks called legendary marks. These can be used to purchase legendary weapons and armor, and can be obtained by running the daily story mission, the weekly strike and Crucible playlist, dismantling other legendaries, and by completing story missions, special bounties, and certain quests. You can hold about a max of 200 of these, and they're shared across all 3 of your characters. This is the currency that you'll be grinding for in the endgame, and there's plenty of sources for it across the board. So basically, play through the story missions, complete the quest, and start grinding up legendary gear as well as legendary marks. And that's pretty much it in terms of getting started in the Taken King. Once you've reached the max level of 40, your next goal is simply to raise your light level to 300 and beyond. Your light level is essentially the average between the attack and defense values of all of your currently equipped weapons and armor. And as you continue to get better gear, better weapons, and better armor, your light level will progressively increase, which will allow you to take on more and more of the game's content. The concept of item levels will be super familiar to most of you MMO players out there. And the light level concept is basically the same thing. In addition to just finding better stuff, you can also raise your light level by finding legendary gear and infusing it with other weapons and armor to raise that gear's light level. Infusion is a process in which you take legendary or exotic gear and raise its overall level by infusing it with another piece of gear in the same category that has a higher light level. Say you've got a shiny new legendary helmet that you'd love to raise the light level on. You would simply find another helmet that has a higher amount of light than the one that you want to keep and infuse it. Doing so will raise the light level of the legendary or exotic helmet that you've got and progressively increase your total light level. Doing this does cost you some glimmer, armor materials, a mode of light, and some legendary marks, but it's a pretty simple process. Additionally, don't be afraid to equip blue weapons and armor if they're a higher light level than your current gear. Every increase in light counts. And as you continue to find higher level gear and continually raise your light level, you'll be progressively getting more and more powerful, and will thus be able to enjoy more and more of Destiny's content. So there we go, once you've made it through the Taken King story and hit level 40, your next goal is simply to raise your light level by getting better gear. So how do you do that? How do you get your hands on that precious loot? Well, thankfully there's plenty of things for you to do and plenty of ways for you to get your hands on those engrams. So here's a list of things you should definitely start doing after you hit level 40. First up, start running strikes in the Vanguard Strike playlist. This doesn't have to be heroic strikes, just running the regular level 36 Vanguard Strike playlist will get you more than enough gear. It also nets you a great amount of EXP for your weapons and armor, and is a good way to rank up your factions. Next up, play through the Court of Oryx. The Court of Oryx is basically the engram generation machine. You'll unlock the Court of Oryx as you play through the Taken King story mode, and it really turns into a fantastic source of engrams, new gear, and new ghosts. It's quick, it's easy, and it's also a great way to build up a huge stockpile of worm spore. Seriously, if you're looking to get new gear, the Court of Oryx is definitely where you should be. Next up, continue playing through the Vanguard missions. Now, just because you've beaten Oryx and finished the Taken King's main storyline doesn't mean that there aren't more missions and quests to do. Continue doing the Vanguard quests and they'll grant you additional legendary gear and even lead to a couple of brand new exotics. These quests pop up fairly frequently and for the most part aren't too hard to complete, and they'll wind up netting you some pretty good legendary gear to get you started. So if you're looking for some easy gear, keep running those quests. You can also run them on all 3 of your characters for triple the rewards. Once you've reached about 295 and above light, you can start running the raid. The King's Fall raid is of course Destiny's ultimate in-game content. And in addition to being really fun, it's also the main source for some of the highest leveled gear in the game. Finally, participate in events like Sparrow Racing League, the Iron Banner, and the Trials of Osiris. Bungie has added in a ton of new events to make sure that there's plenty of things to do every single month on Destiny. These events grant you hard mode raid level gear that can skyrocket your light level. They're also pretty fun. And as a matter of fact, the Iron Banner PvP tournament is going on right now. Once you've reached about 290 light and above, you can jump into that and start getting some in-game gear right off the bat. So again, once you've reached max level, there's plenty of ways to get your hands on legendary weapons, armor, and legendary marks. And that, Guardians, is pretty much it. With these tips, you should be more than ready to get started in the Taken King, and you'll be felling Oryx in no time. This was again just a basic guide for newer players to help them get a bit more familiar with the game. And there are of course a lot of other things that I really didn't cover here, so you'll probably have to do a bit of exploring to see it all. Hopefully this helped out you newer players, and if there's anything I missed, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and if you like what you saw here, do feel free to check out my channel where you can find a ton more Destiny The Taken King videos coming out soon, including guides on how to get most of the game's new exotics. But alright, that's it for me. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.